is one of their mobile kitchens that they actually
is that even some what I call habitual
beautiful Stop and Shop in the Wilton penalty, but it was actually a tax, and that it.
Absolutely. What's the name of the show? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Joe Visconti, and tonight I'm sitting in for Marty Heiser, the great Marty Heiser. Marty got busy tonight. He called me up a couple days ago and said, Joe, can you sit in for me? Can you bring some guests on? And I looked at my Rolodex and I said, what would Danbury in the greater southwest corner of Connecticut like to see? And so I came up with someone so interesting, and I think you're all going to enjoy our conversation tonight. And right now I'd like to introduce you to my guest, and it is the great Bob Buckland. Bob, thanks for being on the show tonight. Tonight we're going to have a great conversation where the public is going to get to know about you, your book, and your 6 principles that you've developed in your life beyond wrestling. So I'd love you to start and jump in, and we'll have a good conversation, national, maybe politics, arts, entertainment, wrestling, and the American dream.
In the book we got a nice cover on it, and I'm very proud of the book. It's about my whole life from day one, from the day I was born, and up until a few years ago. It's got a good story, and I'm sort of on a mission with it.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm a mission. I had an oil business, and I liked the oil business, but I love this book so much, and my life. When I read it, I sat there and thought, was that me?
What was that?
In that book.
And that happens when we get a little older.
I couldn't believe that was me doing that stuff.
Bob was at my birthday party in December, my 60th birthday, and I feel the same way. Was that me, the things I've done?
Yeah.
And so you're having the recollection of all your life.
Yeah.
You know, Bob, when I was a young man in the early 80s, I remember watching you, and you were like a god up there in wrestling world. With all the great characters. I'd love you to tell me about your beginnings in the Midwest.
Well, I grew up in Minnesota. We lived on a farm. And when I was born, I didn't move for the first 2 years of my life. I just laid in the crib. And I don't know if there's anything negative, but you know how when you're young, you're born and your bones are soft, and you pick your head up, that's how you get that S shape in the top part of your spine? I don't have that.
Wow.
Because I never picked my head up.
So you're a little bit of a pacifist when you're young.
No, really. I never moved. I never picked my head up. That's why everybody says to relax, because I sit up straight, but I don't have that spine going in. And it looks like I'm stiff, but I'm not. But that was how my life started. But in everything, I started life in the bottom. And everything I ever did in my life, I wasn't any good at it at first.
So you stuck to it, though.
I learned 6 principles through high school and junior high school wrestling, and I utilized them in my life, and I still utilize them today.
Are you going to start sharing them?
A little bit at a time,
okay.
But I had some big things happen to me as I was growing up. I got into amateur wrestling when I was in 8th grade. Everybody beat me. I was the worst wrestler ever in Minnesota, and I got beat up a lot, but I kept going forward. And when I was growing up, I was a bad kid when I was in 8th grade. I was hanging around people, drinking beer with them, and doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. I was on a fence, and I was going to fall on my face. But I was wrestling, I was doing that, and I was hanging around with the wrong people. And I kind of thought they were my friends. And I had one night where I found out they really weren't my friend. And that was my first lesson, was about peer pressure. And I was in the 8th grade. Is it all right if I tell what actually happened in 8th grade? When I found out these guys that I was partying with weren't really my friends? I was at a place called the Kitten Club in Minnesota. And it was right along 169 as you're driving up to Mille Lacs Lake. The Kitten Club is a nightclub. And I went in there with these people, and they got in an argument with a motorcycle gang. And they came over and said, would you want to help us fight with these guys we're arguing with? And I said, yeah, sure I would. I would have did anything for these guys. Get them the shirt off my back. So the motorcycle gang was out on 169 blocking all the traffic, and I walked out of the door of the Kitten Club and got to the motorcycle gang. I looked back, and the door slammed shut. Nobody else came out and to do this with these bikers. So and I'm in 8th grade, and I'm scared to death. I thought I was gonna, I thought I was gonna get destroyed out here. For some reason, they must have thought I was crazy or goofy or something, but they left. That night, I walked home. I walked home thinking, how in the heck am I gonna know if I have a friend? I thought I had 10 of them there.
Wow.
And I didn't.
Innocent. You were innocent.
All the way home though. All I could think of was, how do you know? And how do you know when you have a real friend?
Boy, is that a question of all questions. You know them in politics, and that's a big question. How do you know when someone's with you?
Yeah. And
you learned young, huh?
Joe, sir, from me, it took me 4 years. 4 years to find somebody I would trust. And it was the guy started working out with the guy, and actually he was in same grade as I was, but he was the perfect kid. I was a perfect loser. He was very intelligent, worked hard in school and worked hard in lifting weights. I was really concentrated on becoming a better athlete, but I really regret that I didn't really work hard and become a good student. And I'm paying for that today. I really regret it. And that's one of the things about the book. I like to tell young people, get out there and do your homework. It's going to pay off when you get older.
I know you travel a lot. I see on Facebook you're going to events everywhere, young people. Tell me about what you do with with different groups and different kids in schools. And
well, I've coached wrestling at different schools in Connecticut, Rocky Hill, and Colchester, and but I've always tried to, wrestling did so much for me. It gave me a way to live and a way to succeed, and it taught me that, no matter how low you are in life or how bad it seems, there's a road to success if you do the right things at the right time. And I always tried to encourage people to get into amateur wrestling. I had kids tournaments in Connecticut and in Long Island, two a year, and we'd get together with a bunch of kids, and they'd have a tournament, and I'd talk to them about, doing the right things. Sometimes, that you want to kind of do maybe the wrong thing just to fit into a group. That's called peer pressure, and I really emphasize on sometimes that easy road is not the best road to take in your life.
Yeah.
Your life is all about the decisions that you make. You make them wrong and you make them right. But when you make a wrong one, you correct it, you learn it, you fix it, and you never do it again. You never do it again. You don't do it twice. But some people do it 4 or 5 times. You've got to fix it. That's how you grow. That's how you succeed.
Tell me about the WWE and how it came from the world you were in when you were young, from amateur to professional, and how the profession changed, and how that affected what you're talking about right now, trusting people as the business has changed and the television performances changed. How did you carry that through?
You know what?
Because we saw one thing on one side of the camera at home on our television.
You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You see us in the ring, and you kind of think we're all together in it. I was a loner. I wouldn't hang with them. I had these rules that I lived by. These 6 principles. They dominated my mind. And we were talking about that peer pressure thing. There was one night I wrestled in Atlanta, Georgia, and some of the older wrestlers asked me to come with them and drive in the car with them. And I said, yes, I would. And in that time, you had to have the older wrestlers like you because they knew the promoters and they helped you become successful by getting your name to them. Anyway, I'm riding around in the car with them, and they start smoking marijuana. And I'm in the car with them. I rolled the window down, sir. And they rolled it back up. Waited a little while, and I tried to roll the window down again, and they locked it so I couldn't roll it up. They wanted me to get in their little group.
So you
They
were,
wanted to.
you were your own man then throughout wrestling.
They wanted me to fit in with them and be on their team and party with them. I asked them to stop the car and let me out. And I didn't know where the heck I was, but I didn't want to be in the car with those guys. I didn't care whether they did marijuana or not. I cared that they made a bad decision. But I didn't care that they did the marijuana. I just didn't want to be there. And they didn't stop the car. And you know what? I'm thinking I need these guys for friends. My God. I almost thought, maybe I should just fake like I'm getting goofy from marijuana.
Yeah.
But I decided not to.
Well, drugs turn into crime, turn into getting arrested. There goes your career.
Yeah, well, I was going to do that to fit in with him. When I said that, after I said that, it reminded me of the Kitten Club.
Ah.
Pressure. They were putting pressure on me. And because of the Kitten Club, when they stopped the car and went into a nightclub, I walked home. I didn't bend fit into their group. And you know what? That, if I would have partied with them like I was pretending, it wouldn't have got around. Every promoter in the business knew that I did not bend to these people. They were the top people in the business. And I wouldn't fit in.
Bob.
I wouldn't do it. It was because of the Kitten Club, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me because everybody found out about it. And there was a little instance like 5 years later where really made that decision pay off.
Do you think you suffered anything by being your own man from the beginning? Or do you think that led you to who you are?
No, it led me, I wasn't a follower because, that the thing in the Kitten Club was bigger than you think in my mind. And it always was there. And I could feel that peer pressure any time, and I just walked. But the one like when every promoter knew that I had integrity, and Vince McMahon Sr., who was the running the WWF at the time, and Bruno Sammartino was his champion. His champion had a lot of integrity, and Vince McMahon Sr. had a standard that his champion had to be better outside the ring with young people and being a model than in the ring. And he called up all these promoters and asked who could be the best All-American boy to replace Bruno Sammartino, the greatest wrestler ever.
And you were the All-American boy.
The promoters were scared to say anybody else. If one of those promoters would have suggested one of the people that were in a car that night in Atlanta, Vince McMahon would have been very upset because they knew what kind of guy he wanted. They all said my name. Every promoter said my name. And that made that decision in the car very valuable because I got to replace the greatest champion ever, and I got to keep the belt for 6 years. And
Wow.
I had a lot of fun. I climbed the ladder of success, and it made it all worth it. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons I'm here right now to talk about this book and talk with you, Joe. I'm just happy about my life, and I'm very excited about the future because I think I'm on the most important mission that I've ever been on in my life. It's to help you or be with you and support you, and especially the younger people, but it's people of all ages that we want to affect in a positive way all over the country. Positive mental attitude, never capitulating, and you live by it. And you live by it, and you grow by it, and you become successful with it.
Now everyone wants to hear a little bit about your induction into the Hall of Fame and who came in with you.
Yeah.
Somebody famous came in with you.
That's a long story too. Yeah. Oh,
I'm sure they're going to want to hear about that. Was it 2013?
Well, yeah. Let's move it ahead and back up a little bit. Mr. Trump gets elected the president of the United States. The next day.
You don't say.
The next day, I'm down at the White House trying to get in to speak to Mr. President Donald Trump. All the security guys watched wrestling. They all knew me. They wouldn't let me in.
They got a little thing called clearance.
And I kept trying to get in, and then this and that. And I said, I'm going to Trump Tower tomorrow. I drove back home. The next day I drove down to Trump Tower. And I knew he wasn't there, but I just, I hung around there. They have great meals there at the Trump Tower. I ate there, talked to all these security people. They had more security there than they did in the White House.
I know.
I couldn't believe it.
I've been there.
Yeah,
I've been there.
It was, but anyway,
offices.
I talked to some people, and I talked to a guy. He'd been working for Mr. Trump for 13 years. He said, come back Wednesday. So I went back Wednesday, and I'm on a mission to try to get a hold of Mr. Trump. So anyway, I talked to this guy and this and that, and they go up and get the vice president's son. They bring him down in the lobby, and I'm talking to him. And I'm telling him, I said, you know what? I was inducted in the Hall of Fame of the WWE the same time Mr. Trump was inducted.
The same night.
2013 in Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
It was like about 20,000 people in the garden. They had to get less people because it had so much, they took away a lot because of the way they decorated.
Yeah.
But anyway, I said, and I gave a speech, Mr. Trump gave a speech, but after I gave my speech, Mr. Trump came over to me and said, if I could plug you into New York City, you'd light this city up. And
he wasn't kidding.
And that's what he said to me. And I told I'm telling the vice president's son this story. And I said, after that, I want to come up here and tell him, I'd like you to plug me in to the United States of America, Mr. Trump, because I want to help you make this country great again. And then I signed a book to President Donald J. Trump. And he said he was going to give it to him. And he said it might be a long time to get a hold of him, to talk to him about having me go into schools and talk to kids about being a winner and being successful and climbing the ladder of success. He gave me his business card. And you know sometimes how you can sense that somebody's trying to get away from you? Yeah. I didn't sense that with him. He listened to, I told him, you get back to work.
Yeah.
I think he maybe liked, it's a story, but it's what actually happened. I drove home, and I'm never going to forget that. I got to continue it.
It's another world. A lot of us, Marty Heiser, myself, we all worked on a campaign across the country, different places, and we launched him into the presidency. And it's a busy time, and just imagine going from a candidate to the president of the United States.
Oh, so gosh, yeah.
You'll probably take a few more months before you can hook up with him because.
No, and I understand completely.
He's in another planet right now.
And if he wouldn't have come over and said that, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have been in the White House. I wouldn't, or at the White House, and then being at Trump's Tower. It was very motivating.
Our mutual friend Seth Rosenblatt, I think he was with you that night of the induction. It was 2015.
Yeah. You know what? And that's a story.
That was a story. Our good friend Seth just happened to be with Bob on the induction to the Hall of Fame, and he runs into President Trump.
He runs into Trump and he tells him, "You should run for president, Mr. Trump. Run for president."
And he says, "I get that a lot."
Yeah, and that was back in 2013.
That's amazing. Tell me about how you think entertainment, politics, how that all works in America, because we've seen movie stars move into politics. What's your I know you. Both of us ran against John Larson. I did in 2008, and you were in 2000. So about 8 years after you, I was running against John. Tough seat, but how do you think the politics, the theater, sports, how that works into the public psyche? Well, from behind the scenes, what you see when you're wrestling over the years. It's a show, but you're wrestling, and the fan sees something. How do you think that crosses over into the political mind, what people think, how they accept Donald Trump or how they would accept you, or people that do sports? Yeah,
well, people they see a lot over their life, and a lot of things happen to them. It's a lot of that's based on what happens to them as they're growing up. And
So they have a sports hero, and you become a hero for them.
Yeah, the lessons they learn too in their life too. But yeah, to have somebody that's going to do the right things and not say one thing and do another. Some people talk a big talk, but they don't back it up. You gotta live it and love it. I can't wait for the next day to come. I do my life one day at a time. I get done today, and then I'm thinking about tomorrow. I just make sure today is going to be a great day. I don't care if it's a bad day. I'm still going to make it a good day.
Tell me how I missed I was raising kids, and I missed the epic when you went from who you were in the 70s and 80s into Mr. Buckland. Seth was telling me about it, but tell me how that came about in your mind, where you put on a new persona, which was probably always embedded in you and who you were, but it came out into a character.
Yeah. You know what? In the 90s, I had a big break, and then I went back in the 90s, and I went back there to be mom and dad and apple pie. And
but you always were that.
I went back there to be that. But you know what? From 1984 to 1993, our society had changed a lot, and I believe it went down a lot. The moral values weren't as high as they were in the 80s, in the crowd. And they didn't want to hear about mom and dad and apple pie. And I had a meeting with Vince, and I told him that because he asked me to be bad in the 80s, and I wouldn't do it.
He wanted you to be the bad guy.
Yeah, he wanted me the bad guy.
The villain.
I wouldn't do that in the 80s. I had a daughter that was 6 years old, and I wasn't going to do that to her because she was going to school. She was just starting school. No way. My family's more important than me being a good guy or a bad guy or a wrestler or anything else.
So you took a break and then came back.
Yeah, I took a break and then came back, but I realized these people aren't going to like the All-American boy. And I went and I had a meeting with Vince. He said, "What's wrong?" He said, "Well, I think the good guys are lying, cheating, and swearing. I want to be bad by being good."
Wow.
I want to be bad by being good. And I was very into it because I thought I was, fixing the world by making people responsible for their own actions.
So actually telling people to follow the straight and narrow became the bad guy.
I became the most hated. I did a promo one time. I had the mic in my hand, and I bring the mic up to my lips, and the people cheered, booed so loud you couldn't hear them. I bring it down. And they'd stop, and I'd bring it up. I didn't say a word in that whole promo. All I did is bring the mic up and down. They didn't let me say a word for 5 minutes. And that's how.
So the audience went from cheering the hero, the person who stood up for moral fiber, for right and wrong, good versus evil. You walked into a time when those roles were reversed.
Those roles were reversed. But I wasn't. I didn't change what I was saying, but I built up a voluminous vocabulary so it could agitate the plebeians.
I've seen some of the videos.
That's exactly fantastic. What I said to Vince McMahon Jr. at the time. And but I'm not a genius. I'm not augmenting my intelligence. I don't know anything about that. But I know about working hard, and I know about doing the right things, and I know about the things that people need to go through to be able to resist and to be able to go out there and live their lifestyle so it makes them and their family stronger.
I heard that you were also a contractor. You did contracting work years ago?
Well, when I first got done wrestling, I was a bail bondsman.
Tell me all your careers.
Yeah, we're getting down to the jail, get somebody out. What the heck are you doing in here? Cross-faced chicken wing, we're in there. No, but it was almost scary. I stopped doing it.
Oh my God!
But then when I was a young boy, I went out in my hometown and I said, I want to find the hardest job that's in my town. And I found a job, a concrete place where they made blocks. And there's one guy that had to take these blocks off where they dry them and pile them in a different pile. And these blocks were heavy. I wanted that job. They wouldn't give it to me. I wasn't old enough.
Wow.
But then I found a plasterer that was stucco's houses, and I was mixing cement and carrying the 5-gallon pails up the ladder. And one time I got a bigger pail, geez, and because I wanted to get stronger, but I wanted to make a living too. But and that was a good experience. And I might have been the most intelligent guy in the world, but I was on the goal, and when I'm on the goal, I really try to work as hard as I can get there, and that's.
Well, you're full.
I'm on this mission now.
You're full of energy. So let's hit some more principles.
Yeah. Well, the big one is peer pressure, but the next one I learned was you never give up.
Never give up.
You never give up, and that's never capitulate. That's the same thing.
Yeah, I feel that in politics a little bit. People say, well, you did that before. Why don't you just go away and let somebody else come back? There's a lot of that give up.
Yeah, well, you know what, on my give up thing, I was playing football, I was wrestling, I was at track. And I had my football physical in my hand. And Mike Skavnak was the coach of the team that I was on. I went into Mike Skavnak and I said, I don't want to play football anymore. I don't need this physical. I was going to quit. And I was in there for a while with him, and I left the room, and I still had the physical papers in my hand. And for some reason, he talked me into not quitting. Mike Skavnak in Princeton, Minnesota, and that was my experience and I kept going, and I did get better. I did get better, and I actually became pretty successful.
Why did you want to quit?
Because I wanted to party with the guys that I was at the kitten club with. I wanted more time. I wanted more time to do that.
Temptation.
And I believe if that coach didn't talk me out of that, I would have quit school. I would have been a disaster.
So the people that come along in your life.
Once you start quitting, it's easy. Once you do that first one, you do that first quit, you're quitting everything.
So you had an angel there that kept you right in line at the right time.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, when Mr. Skavnak, he's older now, but he's in this book. I tell that story in there. His daughter called me, and I mailed the book to him. And out in Minnesota, that was a story that just for him and for me together, that he did that for me, and I acknowledged it in the book.
You knew when the breaks were coming. You knew. You've recorded it. You kept your memory going. A lot of people forget that, and they forget what happens along the way, who helped them where. Especially when they become successful. You don't look like the kind of guy, from what I've heard about you, that you're down to earth and always remember who brought you there.
You know, they can say this, they can say that. In my mind, I'm just an old country boy. I don't imagine myself as being a big wheel.
And yet you've had all the fame and all the excitement and the lifestyle that people would think that's what you were. What do you think about Trump with that? What do you think really, as a president or as a celebrity, that down-to-earthness, people see that in him, but he wears a suit. He's not a country boy, but what do you think about that?
I think he's got a wonderful heart. I look at his family. And what he does for his family, and how he's trained them, and how good they are, and how right they are. And it's a solid family. And if he can make that family solid, he can make this world great.
Wow. That's a mouthful.
It all comes from I believe the family is the most important unit on the face of this earth. Mom and dad care. And mom and dad have to rule and give that support to their children. And they have a good opportunity in life.
That was well done. You hit me right here.
You know, life's up and down.
Yeah.
I'm pretty calm all the time. You know, and the Mr. Buckland character was way out of that, but I'm very mellow. I'm at the same pace just about all the time. You know, and I don't let I have a stress-free zone around me. It's like it's the wall around me. No stress gets in there. I don't, if I can't fix something, then I don't worry about it. But I like being happy, I like being excited, I like being, having fun, and
And you
And
love
I
what you
like
love
to
what you're
spread
doing.
that.
And you love what you're doing.
I like to spread that. Like I said, I'm on a mission, and I've been on some missions before, but to do what I'm doing now, and I'm very excited about it, and very energetic about it, because it's just a great feeling to reach out to people.
Yeah, I feel that in politics too. It's some of it's rewarding, some of it's not. But reaching out to the public, especially at our age, when you get older, well, you've done it all, you've had it all, and what else is there left besides family and helping people? I mean, it really gets down to that. Sometimes it doesn't come across in politics that way, but no matter who or what party, a lot of people are trying to do good, and they just try a little different ways. But I know what you mean with that, and it's good to see you, because for me, someone who wasn't a huge wrestling fan, but for me, when I turned the TV on, Monday or Tuesday night, whenever it was on in the 80s, there was Bob, and there was Ivan Putski, the Polish Hammer, there's all the characters, but you were that all-American boy. You were American Pie, and you're still American Pie. You're still American Pie right now.
In the 80s, that person stuck out.
Yeah.
But in the 90s, I was loved pretty good, but then and it's important to be, you don't want to be in the middle.
Yeah.
If you're going to be hated, you want to be hated more than anybody else. And
I'm not sure it was hate. It was probably in the world of theater and the world of WrestleMania. The fans themselves, they get caught up in the characters that are being driven.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The rebellious people, rebellion made the good guy the bad guy.
Yeah.
But you remained American Pie. You still are American Pie, and you're pushing American Pie right now.
Yeah, well, that's
in the schools.
That's my job.
Yeah.
That's my job.
Yeah.
I hired myself to keep myself healthy, and hired myself to go out there and do what I can do as far as encouraging other people.
Well, we got to hook you up with the Trump administration. I know a lot of people down there, and I know you do too. As soon as they settle down and get you on tour for health, physical fitness, positive attitude.
Yeah.
We got to send you national.
Yeah, and I want to, like I said, people of all ages. We can't forget about the seniors. We can't forget about the, but it's just everybody can live a healthier life. And I'm not talking about, living healthy. I'm not telling you that, hey, you're going to live to this age. But I like it where I want to have a good day today, where I'm out running around, talking with you, talking to my daughter, talking to my wife. And if I go the next day, that's perfect.
Yeah.
But I don't want to lay there in a bed someplace with somebody giving me chemicals.
The positive frame of mind you talked about earlier, the positive attitude. Again, I know from politics, I know from construction my whole life, the pain, sometimes the struggles, business. It's so easy, especially in our time, to get negative and get down, beat yourself up, be depressed, and miss that moment. And more I see so many people right now economically, anywhere in America. It's not politics, it's just money and chasing money, chasing things. And we get older, we don't need the things we wanted when we were young. So the old timers can really teach the young a lot about, listen, what's necessary, what's really necessary in your life. And because the stress is what's really making people negative.
Yeah. And stress is really a hard thing on your body. Stress is is the biggest negative for your health, to have that kind of stress.
And the physical activity, I know, even when I do politics, if I'm out in the yard or I'm loading a pickup truck or I'm doing a small job, the minute I start moving around and my body's, the blood's pumping, I'm not a wrestler, but the minute it's pumping and you're loading equipment or whatever you're doing physical, or whoever does whatever in their careers or life, the minute you just forget things and start working, let the body do its thing, you feel refreshed, you sleep good at night. No matter what the trials and tribulations are, you can rest, and your body needs its own time.
Yes.
And the mind sometimes can just overthink things,
eat
away at you.
You never want to let your mind talk you out of something. You can't do that.
Right?
I never let my mind talk me out of doing a workout.
Oh, well, that's
and my mind tries to talk me out of it. But I think about, I've never did a workout where I didn't feel great after I got done. And so I argue with my mind, you know, like when you have some kind of thing going on in your life that you don't like I didn't like spinach, and I said I want to like spinach because it's good for you. It's one of the best things you put in your body. So I started telling myself, I love spinach every day, maybe 10 times, 15 times. I love spinach. Now I eat spinach like popcorn. Yeah, but you can't say.
I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing with you because I know.
Some people go to work and say, I hate work. Why do that? You got to do it 8 hours a day. Why not go, hey, geez, I love this work. I have fun there. And then you're going to, the day's going to go, the clock's not going to stop on this number, the time doesn't go.
Right.
But it's just, you love your work. You look what you're making money. That's how you feed your family. You should be excited about going to work. Get out of bed and just be fired up, and that'll go away. But you can't change that overnight. It took me about a year to really start liking spinach. And you do it in little increments. If you do it too fast, you'll quit on it.
Yeah, reinforce. You have to reinforce the thought.
It's got to be in little steps.
Yeah.
And you just finally. But it's all about what your mind hears. And it doesn't necessarily have to come out of your mouth. If a radio's playing too close to you and it's saying a bunch of garbage, shut it off. You don't want to get those negative things in your body because then you got to deal with it. You're putting all these good things in about how good your family is, how much you love your wife. I'm 67 years old right now. I've been married to the same lady for 42 years old, and I love her more now than ever. And every day, I can't wait to get out of bed to go do what I'm going to be doing. No matter whether it's going to be traveling to Los Angeles to have a wrestling match.
Every day's a new adventure.
Oh yeah,
every day.
Yeah. And then some days I'm driving down to Danbury, Connecticut to have a promo with this young man here for an hour.
I see you on Facebook. I'm going to Washington today. I'm going over here. I'm going down to New York. I got a book signing. I'm like, there's Bob popping up on Facebook.
Yeah.
He's all over the place. And at your age, you're not old. I'm 60. You're 67. I think we're healthier in our generation now than our parents were or grandparents.
Yeah.
So, and that means we're going to live longer, and you've got to live more positive.
Yeah, and then we just keep that routine going. We don't, retirement isn't a word in my vocabulary.
Right. Me neither.
To me, retirement is boring. I want to be out there. I want to be doing things. I want to be talking to you and you and you. I like to have that contact, and I like that to have when you get up in the morning, have a reason to get out of bed all fired up to get at it.
Yeah, you got something to do. Now tell me about the wrestling that you coach the kids, because I noticed different Saturdays I see you're at different schools, high schools, or if you're not coaching, you're working with them or something.
Yeah, we're in right now. We're in Danbury, right?
Yeah.
This is probably the greatest program ever in the history of Connecticut in Danbury amateur wrestling. They rule.
Wow.
In the amateur wrestling in Connecticut.
Well, I'm glad I invited you on here.
Yeah, this is the place to be if you want to be a wrestler in Connecticut at the high school level. They have a fantastic coach, and they've won the state tournament a lot of times for the last maybe 15 years.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're big, and they're coached very well, and wrestling makes you disciplined. But I like one of the biggest things I like about wrestling. It's very important that you have to look in the mirror, and you have to take the responsibility for a loss. In wrestling, you can't blame it on the quarterback.
It's all you.
You can't blame it on the halfback.
It's all you.
You got to blame it on yourself. And a lot of people don't go out for wrestling because of that. But that looking in the mirror thing is a very important thing to learn. And the sooner you learn it in life, the better off you are.
When you've lost before, times you didn't think you'd lose, how was that?
Oh, that was.
How does the mind react to that?
Well, you're talking about the mind, sir. When I was a junior in high school, I was undefeated. I just beat a guy that won the state tournament the year before, and I thought I was ready to go in the world when I was a junior in high school. And it got to be at the end of my junior year, I'm going for the state championship in Minnesota. And the people on TV said that I was going to win the match. Vern Gagne said it on his wrestling program in the AWA back in Minnesota that I was going to be next champion. I started believing that.
Oh.
And I learned a big lesson. This is the biggest lesson I ever learned. I went out and got beat by a second-team wrestler, and pretty bad. I got up, walked out, went down and took a shower, and it was close to my hometown. It was in St. Cloud, Minnesota. It was 30 miles from Princeton, Minnesota. I took a shower and I came up, and my mom and my dad were standing about maybe 30 yards away from me, and all the people that came to watch me win the state tournament were there. I started walking towards them, and I started crying. I couldn't face them. I turned around and walked out of the building, and I couldn't face them. And that Monday in school, I went down to get my stuff out of my locker, and I couldn't remember my locker number. That's how that affected me. Wow. And I learned that if your mind's not right, you're not going to get any place. From then on, I didn't want to know that my opponent was from Danbury. I didn't want to know how many wins he had. I didn't want to know what color hair he has. All I needed to know is that I had to go out there and fight my hardest to beat this guy. That's all I wanted to know.
You didn't feel
the others was all garbage. You didn't need to know it because if he was from Danbury, you would figure he was going to beat you. That's how they think in Connecticut.
So you didn't you didn't intimidate yourself with facts and data.
Yeah, but prior to that match, when I was a junior, I started thinking that maybe it was over. Maybe I didn't have to work anymore. Maybe I had it in the bag now. But you never have it in the bag. You always have to go out there and work hard for it. It's never going to change. It's not going to get easier.
Wow.
So you keep fighting it for the rest of your life.
Got to earn it every day. You got to earn it every day.
Sir, that lesson hurt me for a long, long time. A long time. And this guy's name was Brecky, was his last name. And I went to junior college, Waldorf Junior College, and I wrestled there. And we went and wrestled somebody, and Brecky was wrestling for that team. He wasn't wrestling at my weight class. He wrestled at the 75-pounder under me. And the guy on my team beat him. He was ahead of him. He had 8-2, and he pinned him. And that guy that he wrestled in our practice, I didn't even practice with him. It was so easy. But the coach wrestled with me in workouts. The guy was, that's how bad he was. And he beat me, when I was supposed to be at my best.
Wow.
But it was my mind. And I never learned, nobody ever said to me anything about the mind, how important it is in athletics. I knew about the body and the strength and the endurance and this and that. When I was in 10th grade, I went to the football coach and I said, "Coach, can I get a football helmet?" He said, "Why do you want a football helmet?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna screw a hole in the top of it, and I'm gonna put a nut in there, and then I'm gonna put a 25-pound weight on there, and then I'm gonna put a bolt on here, and I'm gonna tie it down. I'm gonna put it on so I can exercise my neck while I'm running." I didn't want to waste any time. I thought, well, I'm not doing anything with the neck anyway. Might as well have that on.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and that reputation hangs around Princeton, Minnesota a lot.
Wow.
But I did that in 10th grade. Is that crazy or not?
No, that's Bob Buckland. That's what that is.
Yeah. Oh, did I spill the water?
Nah.
I get a little messy sometimes. Yeah. Oh God.
Let's move on to a few more
Cheers.
your principles here. We'll toast there.
Well, we talked about the peer pressure and young people. Peer pressures like. You're in a group and or you have some friends and they're smoking cigarettes. They want you to smoke cigarettes with them. That's going to be peer pressure, and you have to make a decision there one way or another. But we talked about peer pressure. We talked about never giving up, right?
Right.
And we talked about hard work paying off, didn't we?
Yep.
Let's talk about showing up on time.
Oh, punctuality.
If you don't show up on time, you might as well stay in bed. You're not respecting that guy that you're going to see. If you have a meeting, you get there on time.
Today, you called me an hour early, and I said, "Wow, Bob is there already."
Yeah,
You're there way before time.
I'm responsible to get myself here.
I found out about you today.
And I messed up a few times, but I was at I did a radio interview. I was scheduled to do it, and we came back from WrestleMania this year, and it was like, I was going to do it that night after WrestleMania. Yeah. It was 3 o'clock, and I said, I'm going to take a nap till 7:30. I took a nap till 8 or till 9 o'clock, and I missed it. I drove over there the next two weeks later. I drove over there, and sorry, I was so embarrassed that I didn't. I took a nap.
Well, when I found out you were here an hour early, and I know you got here to get a sandwich or something, I said, what came through to me, and I know you're ready, but I said, boy, is that commitment. Boy, is that commitment.
Well,
because he's here, he's prepared, he's ready to work. I've seen that construction guy show up with a truck an hour beforehand on the job site or at the shop. Whoa, that guy wants to work. Not only does he need the money, he wants to make sure he's here and we see him. So I didn't know about that with you, but until tonight.
Oh yeah. No.
That's a big one. It's in the book too, huh?
I'm really embarrassed.
You lived it today.
Yeah. And then let's see. What's the last principle?
5? Are we up to 5?
Yeah.
I didn't read the book yet.
Well, go back and read it for 5. You're pretty fast.
I scanned your Wikipedia today. I said, I got to look at
one more.
I got to look at Bob's whole Wikipedia, and it was like a mile long of your whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God! I mean, the guy on the cover, that's the guy I remember.
Yeah.
And Mr. Apple Pie.
This guy's that's sort of. The All-American Boy picture. And that was in St. Louis, Missouri. The one on the front was in Madison Square Garden. Wow. And that was in 1981.
Well, let me ask you this question. This is something that the audience will probably love. They see these guys that are workout, muscular, never mind drug enhancements or anything like that, just muscular versus people that may not look muscular but are strong. Tell me about strength versus what it looks like, especially if you have to go up against somebody like you did, Hulk Hogan, who's like...
Yeah, well, you brought up
wrestling versus muscle look.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan weighed about 325 pounds. And we had a video that we were going to play, but they couldn't get it to fit in or to work on their equipment. And in that video, I pick up Hulk Hogan with one arm. And what I tell people is you can't judge a book by the cover.
Correct.
You can't judge a book by the cover. And nobody else in the business ever did that. In the same tape, I did Ivan Koloff with one arm. He had me in a short arm scissor, and I picked him up with that arm. I wish we could have showed him to him because it's pretty interesting.
Right. So when you're going up against an opponent you haven't wrestled before, even when you were younger, I know this from the contracting world. Guys that hang sheetrock, roofers. Some people don't look like they can do the work. All of a sudden, they're outperforming you. So I know personally strength isn't what it looks like. No. But the public, especially spectators or fans, are seeing something in the 80s, or maybe the 90s, 2000, it became the muscle-bound wrestler versus strength.
It helped you get over with the fans to have muscles. It made it, some people were very impressed by that.
Right.
And,
but we know strength isn't that way.
In the long run, it takes years off your life. So, and then in the long run, most of the people spent most of their money to keep the muscles.
Right.
So it's taken away from their life, but they're really into that moment of glory.
But the agility and the strength and the speed of real wrestling has nothing to do with being muscle bound.
No. But we're talking about the world of entertainment.
Right.
The universe
of entertainment versus real wrestling and real pinning someone and positioning yourself.
Yeah. But there is an art there, and it is like when you're an amateur wrestler, you want to win. When you're in professional wrestling, you want to entertain the people at a top level every time you go into the ring. And I've heard some people say, this is Glastonbury, Connecticut, let's just take it easy. No, you push it just as hard there as you do in Madison Square Garden.
And so when you're going to wrestle someone with muscles, and you've never wrestled them before, I'll just say muscles, but muscle bound, that whole thing. How do you feel as a wrestler? What do you know? You remember you're talking about the mind. What does that do to your mind? At least when that was all starting to happen.
Well,
how do you know someone's strength until you start actually wrestling with them?
Yeah, but the number one thing is don't let it impress you. He's just another guy on the street. He puts his pants on the same way we do.
So when you haven't wrestled someone at all, and because strength is deceiving, when you first make, even if you're working in a group, WWE or whatever back in the day, or WWF, when you approach someone, how many seconds does it take, or a minute, before you know how strong they are, what their moves are? There's got to be an introductory process in your mind.
You'll realize it.
You realize it very quickly?
You could realize it very quickly, yes. And you know, but when they do it in a fast way with steroids, it doesn't have time to make you stronger. I think steroids is maybe you retrain more liquid, right?
Right.
And you know, when you're getting stronger, it takes longer in your training to gain actual strength and get powerful. But that quick stuff, that's not giving them the strength, it's giving them the look.
It's giving them the look. So the look is something that's marketable, entertaining, but the real wrestling and the real strength of the wrestler, and able to position, pin somebody, put them on a hold, that's all technique, and that's...
I'm waiting for a phone call.
Oh, are you?
Our daughter was going to call.
Okay. You know, and that's technique, and so you don't know until you're actually in the ring, when you get in there, if you've never wrestled before, how you feel, or what to expect.
Yeah, right. Well, no, you never know getting in the ring. But you know somebody that's good if they touch you like that. You don't get hurt. You and I have to wrestle the next night. If I hurt you tonight, I'm not going to make any money tomorrow night. And you're not going to either.
You don't want to hurt each other, but that's got to be worse because you still have to win.
Well, you have no control of that.
There's got to be a lot of negotiation that's not spoken, but that's...
The sixth principle.
You got me in suspense.
This principle rules over all the other principles. It rules. Definitely rules. You always save the best for last, right?
Okay. All right, we're ready.
I'm not going to tell you.
We got 5 minutes. You got to tell me.
Oh gosh sakes!
This is it.
Down to the wire
This
here.
is the climax.
You got to get it out of me now.
This is the climax.
I'm not good at keeping secrets.
You got to buy the book.
Yeah. Get the book.
But you got to share. You got to share the public with the sixth principle.
No. There's. Yeah, I will. It's.
Did they all dawn on you at once as you were growing up and getting older, or at what point did you put them all together? The ones that you work by.
Just after I got a certain age, I kind of got them down pretty good. And, but writing the book is really organized. Because we spent 5 years doing that. But the golden rule. The golden rule. Treat people how you want to be treated. That's number one. How do you want to be treated? Are you going to treat somebody like that? Treat people how you want to be treated. What kind of world would we have if nobody ever stole something? Do you want somebody to steal from you?
And you wouldn't think these things have to do with wrestling or career, but they you've applied them your whole life.
Respect is an important thing. Respect is a very important thing, no matter who they are. Respect them. They're human beings. Human beings. we're all equal. And if we treat people how we want to be treated, we'd all be a lot better. I love you people. I love talking to you. I love being there. And I love what I'm doing. And I believe in every single word that I say. And I'm not going to let you down.
You run the gamut of emotion, Bob. You're bigger than life, and now you're quiet, reaching out.
Yeah. Quiet is, but it's very humbling to me to kind of take on the things that I want to take on.
We're getting to see the softer side of you. This is a good show.
Was it?
Yeah. For me, I'm entertained over here.
Yeah,
Of course.
I guess our daughter's sitting down there watching it. She'll call me up and let me know all the stuff that I did wrong.
Oh, you didn't do anything wrong. You're Bob. You're Bob Buckland. You're Mr. Buckland.
No.
And that's the thing, the political correctness, as well as it should be like this, it should be like that. We should articulate something like this. Being yourself, being who you are, people can see through. People know when they see something true, authentic. You're authentic, Bob. I've always known that, and my good friend Seth tells me a lot of stories and the history of wrestling and the things you've been through your whole life. I'm like, wow. I thought the ups and downs in the construction business and politics was one thing, but keeping that positive attitude. And at your age, and I don't mean that old, I mean at your age right now, you just begun.
I'm not getting older, I'm getting better. I'm
begun.
happy every year that goes by.
Yeah.
I'm getting better.
I know you are. We got about a minute left or a little less, so reach out to your family and say something. Because we've got this on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
The world is watching it.
All the friends out there on Facebook.
Whatever you like to say to them.
I should say, they've been, I'm a neophyte, and they know it. I put down there, hey, I did that wrong because I'm a neophyte. And I don't even know what the word neophyte means. But
You're a novice. Neophyte is novice.
But the people out there are very patient, and
they love you. You've got a lot of people that love you, Bob, and I'm glad that Marty called me and said, can you do the show? And I said, you know what, I want to put a couple guests. And Bob, I want to thank you for being here. What a grip. I love it. God bless you. Thank you for being here. We are out of time.
Did I ever tell you about the time that I was on Hannity and Combs?
No.